Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Hello, welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. My name is Kirk Henderson, and I'm joined as always by Josh Bowe. We are the editors over at Mavs Moneyball. Josh, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. Hanging in there. We're getting ready for this full week of games after it feels like we've kind of had the baby schedule. We've been eased into the season so far. So
that's right. That's
games
right.
are starting up.
So we're on tonight was game 22, I think. Yeah, the Mavericks were 13-8. So game 22 of the season, the Mavericks just defeated the Memphis Grizzlies 120-113. The final score doesn't really speak to the way the game, like the score for most of the game.
Yeah.
Memphis really fought like hell, but the Mavericks kind of controlled the game from start to finish.
Yeah.
It was an interesting game, and I'm not really sure where we should start talking about things. And I missed a good chunk of the first quarter. So what was kind of interesting to you about how the Mavericks got started?
I mean, they kind of kept them at arm's length from basically the start of the game. So it was interesting because obviously Memphis's injuries need no further, they're missing John Morant, Steven Adams, Brandon Clark, Marcus Smart. I mean, they're missing almost all their guys besides Bane and Jaren Jackson. And the Mavericks are probably one of the only teams right now that could kind of sympathize. I mean, they were basically missing 5 rotation guys, no Kyrie, no Grant Williams, no Josh Green, no Tim Hardaway Jr., no Maxi Kleba. And then Derrick Jones Jr. got hurt 6 minutes into the game and didn't come back. So they were basically down 6 guys, main guys that play in their rotation. And the crazy thing about this game was it didn't really feel like they were missing anything. Not to discount, obviously, the guys that were playing. I mean, if if Kyrie was playing in this game, this might have been like a 30-point game, or it might have been even a more laughable result. But they never felt in danger. Like, this game never hit the danger zone. They were always had a double-digit lead. I think the only time Memphis got it below double digits in the fourth was when there was only like a minute left, and it didn't really matter. So really, it was to start the game. I mean, Luka was great. From 3, he kind of finished kind of wonky, like everything inside of the arc wasn't as clean, but the team passed the ball really well despite some turnovers. And again, like Dante Exum in the starting lineup playing major minutes, like he has been the guy in this 3-game winning streak. I know they're all 3 bad teams, but that's the story. That's the takeaway for me after tonight and after these 3 games is just how impressive he's been with the larger role and how important he's been. His fingerprints have been all over these games, and especially tonight's. Oh, can't hear you.
My bad. I muted myself when my dog was drinking water like he'd never seen it before. So 3-game win streak. Dante Exum averaging he's had 6 assists tonight and 7 assists in the previous 2 games. And his little bit of connectivity in this offense and really just how hard he plays. Like, I feel like there are 3 speeds of Maverick guard, if you were to describe it, where it's like Luka, which is slow, Kyrie, which is, kind of like a hot knife through butter, but not always explosively fast. And then Dante Exum, who seems to be more controlled than Josh Green ever has been, but with kind of like a controlled fury when he gets going at the rim. I mean, he had 2 dunks tonight that were just like, what the hell? I mean, it's really fun watching him play. And I think he gives them, I think last podcast, we talked about him as a bit of an innings eater, and that's still how I think about it, but he gives them just a punch that's been a lot of fun to watch. I mean, I'm not, I jokingly tweeted before the game that he was playing power forward for them because they tend to announce when the Mavericks do it. He was 4th on the call sheet there. So I don't know, it's nice watching him play. It's nice watching him attack. I wonder how long it takes teams to figure out that they need to play like 9 feet off him. Because I think he hit any threes tonight?
He hit one.
So that was just his 8th made 3 of the year, I think. It's not good. And one of the things that we had been told prior from fans who watched him overseas is that he was pretty good about hitting the corner threes. And so he's gonna need to hit a few more to keep things honest. But again, in the kind of just constant game of the regular season, having a guy that plays like this, that's either kind of versatile in terms of bench or starting role, is really, really nice. It's fun.
Yeah, and sound like a broken record because he's played basically the exact same in these 3 games where he's had to be a starter, save for the Utah game where he didn't really score, but he didn't have to. They won by 50 points. It's just the same thing every single game. He pushes it almost more than any other guy on the floor. Their pace is way up whenever he's on the floor. Their fast break points are way up when he's on the floor. They get to the rim way more when he's on the floor because that's all he does. Again, he doesn't shoot threes particularly well, and he's not shooting a ton of them, although he did shoot 11 in 3 games, which feels like a lot for him. But again, like per minute basis, he's not putting up a ton of threes. So they get to the rim a lot and they play quicker when he's on the floor compared to when he's off of it. And again, that tertiary, secondary kind of ball handler role, he's filling in for the Kyrie spot, but being able to play a bigger, he's a guard, but he's a big 6'5". He's got a lengthy wingspan. He's a significantly bigger guard than Kyrie is, for example. And the Mavericks haven't really had, outside of Luka, a big guy that can handle the ball and pass. And again, it doesn't necessarily need to be like, he's not like running a ton of first action pick and rolls. Like a lot of his assists just come within the flow of moving off the ball, driving, attacking closeouts, manipulating the space that Luka creates because, and especially in a game like tonight with no Tim Hardaway Jr., no Kyrie. I mean, there were some possessions where Memphis was just like, all right, we're doubling Luka as soon as he crosses half court. And sometimes Exum was the one who caught the ball. He was the first pass out of that double team. And it was almost like kind of like kid in a candy store, like giving that guy that much space and a downhill kind of slope to gather speed and momentum. It was just like it was kind of game over. So like that's
very shocked about that because prior to these 3 games, and I doubt it's changed much over 3 games, but the Mavericks are like one of the bottom 3 teams in terms of like rim pressure on offense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to, there's, these teams have rough scouting reports. I'm sure over a series things are much more detailed, but there's probably not a lot in there on Exum. And because he, again, one of the dunks he had from the left, he's on the right wing, but going middle, that defender looked like he had no idea that Exum could do that.
Probably hadn't seen, he was last in the NBA a couple of years ago. I mean, the last time he was a major NBA player was like probably like five years ago at this point. So yeah, he might as well be a new face to, I'm sure, a lot of these guys on the floor.
Yeah.
Eventually in the third quarter, they put Jaren Jackson Jr. on him, and Jaren and Jackson just flat out ignored him and just played like free safety rover. And it was like, okay, finally they're doing the thing. But again, they were basically down by 17 by that point. And the Mavericks were basically coasting to the end of the game. So it didn't really matter. But I think that's eventually what teams are going to need to do. Put either their center or put their second, if they're playing two bigs, put a second big on them or something like that, where you just kind of don't even leave the paint or you don't even guard him at the 3-point line at all. Because otherwise, I mean, we're seeing what's happening. He's a smart player. He knows what to do with the space provided, even if he can't shoot his way through it. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun to watch, and we're getting to the point where I don't know. Like, now the question is, what's going to happen when this roster is healthy? Because he's playing so well, the team's playing so well. I mean, it feels kind of absurd to be like, if Grant Williams and Josh Green and all these guys get back, to be like, okay, go back to your 12-minute per game, 15-minute per game bench roll, right? Like, he's making a case to stick in the starting lineup for the long term, I think.
Yeah, and the politics of that sort of thing are probably a little uncomfortable for everybody involved, but that's where, as critical as we've been of Jason Kidd over the last 2.5 years, that's where having a actual former player can probably come in handy. I mean, these guys you're winning. Grant got paid, Josh got paid. There's not a lot, you're talking pride purposes here. And I just,
that's a good point. If they were in contract years, would this be different?
Yeah. So I'm just sort of thinking, I get the inclination, but I also think, and this is really rather important, I'd be curious to know if the Mavericks know that they have something. Not to be an asshole. No, fuck it. I'm being an asshole.
You can be an asshole.
Do the Mavericks know that they have something here? Because I think you could make the argument that they played some bad teams. And
they've just played 3 of the worst teams in the NBA.
Right. So it's like, I think we have something. This is not like that 7-game win streak last year where it was all kind of smoke and mirrors. I think Exum brings something that they need. It's a matter of, can you, how many minutes can you get out of these lineups? Do you need to tinker with rotations and minutes distributions and against a better team? You're probably hoping to steal time against the Nuggets or against the Raptors, who are so much bigger. Like, you might not be, the minutes thing, I think is something people might want to talk about from tonight, just because like Luka had to play 44, but in a given, you have these minutes to distribute. You have 48 minutes times 5 positions, and you got to figure out how to get the most out of those minutes of those players. And I don't know. I still kind of feel at this point, I think we're going to see a lot of different. I don't think this lineup is like set. I think he's going to continue to tinker till like game 50 or so.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. The curious thing is, like, okay, if Exum sticks, does it, do you put Grant back in, or do you start Exum and Derek Jones Jr. together? Although Jones got hurt, I don't know if he's going to be back right away since he didn't come back in this game. So
it seemed like he could have, but they sort of were like, well, we're going to need him tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But if you start Jones and Exum and Grant's coming off the bench, I know Grant's not a big guy, but he at least has experience guarding 4s. Like, who guards 4s? You can get away with it playing against Utah and Portland and this version of Memphis, but
right.
I don't know how long an Exum Jones front court can last. But here's the thing. Their main starting lineup, their 5-man group that's played the most possessions this season, Luka, Kyrie, Jones, Grant, and Lively, that's a negative lineup on the season. It's minus 2.8 per 100 possessions per cleaning the glass, which is not good for, that lineup's played 219 possessions. The next most played lineup is 72. So, like, it's far and away the most played lineup this season. And obviously the injuries are the only reason it's been derailed so far. But, like, yeah. I've been thinking before the injuries, like, it might be time for a change, because that, despite the success the team is having, like, that lineup is just not working. Defensively, it's doing okay. It's like middling defensively, which for this Mavericks team, like, you throw a parade for middling defensively, but it can't score. And I think, when Grant is so streaky, if he's not hitting 3s, you're basically playing Luka and Kyrie with 3 non-shooters for the most part, or 3 players that teams don't guard as shooters. Even if Jones is making his 3s, there's a difference between Jones making, 2 or 3 wide open 3s a night versus like a Tim Hardaway or someone who's putting up like 8 3s a game. You know what I mean? Like, so even if Jones's percentage looks good, he's still not guarded like a knockdown shooter, and that can gunk some things up offensively. So obviously the injuries are going to dictate what they can play going forward, because at this point they just got to play who's healthy. But yeah, I mean, when everyone's healthy, I find it hard to believe that Exum's going to get the short end of the stick. Is when you consider the starting lineup probably needed a tune-up before all these injuries. Like it wasn't performing at the rate I think that they're comfortable with.
I think that's right. All right. So before we continue to talk about this game, some quick housekeeping. If you could do me a favor and consider going and liking the stream right now, that would be great. We would very much appreciate it. While we're there, if you would also consider subscribing to Pod Maverick and clicking, the bell that becomes available, because you will get notified when we go live on these shows. And we do one of these after every game. And we do, sometimes I'm doing the live show. I'm going to do a second live show after this where you guys can come and talk some basketball with me. Let me know what your takes are. Then the last kind of piece of housekeeping while we're here is that if you're a subscriber to the YouTube channel, you might have noticed 400 or so videos showing up in your feed today. And I connected our RSS feed for the podcast to our YouTube page, and it pulled in, or has begun the process of pulling in, our nearly 1,000 recorded episodes. I don't entirely understand why they're displaying in the order that they are. I got some amazing comments from people that clearly stumbled on videos and were like, what is this? Why are you talking about the Mavericks in 2021? And it's because things like that were getting pulled in. Josh and I are going to look into it when we have time, as far as, is there any way we can, reorder these videos, because they have date stamps on them of when they were published. So it's really confusing of why they're showing up in just kind of a randomized order. If we have any big YouTube fans out there that run their own pages or know any of this stuff, please reach out to me. I would love some assistance. I have we can't stress enough that Josh and I are kind of figuring this out as we go. Josh is a much more regular YouTube user. He was the one that reminded me that we needed to even connect this to begin with, because Google Podcasts is going away soon, and then YouTube, which is a part of Google, will be taking over for Google Podcasts. Did I miss anything there, Josh?
No. Do you want to update on? Do we have an update on Apple?
Oh God,
that's a big one.
So our Apple Podcasts basically stopped updating. And if you're hearing this, you probably don't have Apple Podcasts, so you will never know what the hell is going on. And when I get this fixed, I will have to explain it again. But essentially, when we got let go by our previous company, Let Go, they basically said they weren't going to pay us anymore. And then they gave us our podcast feed, which they did not have to do. When it went from hosted by Megaphone, which is a Spotify-owned company, to it got moved over to Spotify for Podcasters, which is like an individual podcast company. And then when we decided to join Blue Wire, it then moved back in to Megaphone, but what happened was, with Apple in particular, the existing podcast that I had claimed that was like ours, like yours and mine, Josh, there was a duplicate feed that got created, like a mirrored feed that had the same number of episodes and everything. And I just didn't notice this. It's been going on since April. And then last week it stopped updating. And so the feed that are when I normally press a button and go publish, it distributes to all the different platforms. I don't have to do anything. And so it has been distributing to 2 Apple platforms this entire time. Only now it's distributing to an Apple podcast feed that precisely 0 people are subscribed to. It has 0 subscribers. And it's I've been trying to explain this to Apple over email, but it's very extraordinarily painful. So sorry about that. That will be our last little bit of housekeeping, unless I missed anything. Josh, did I?
No, I think you're good. Yeah, we're trying to get through it. We're trying.
Well, if you listen to me yammer this long, then listen to these ads that are coming up next on your audio feed. So thank you so much. We'll be right back.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging, so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy and streamlined, so I can spend more time on the rest of my business. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
And we're back. See, I really have to figure out how to insert YouTube mid-ad rolls. I just doing this for fun makes, like, whenever I get free time, there've been times later I'm like, I just don't want to do anything else. Okay, so we were talking about a lot of different things already. What else should we really connect on? Because, like, I really want to talk about how Omax looked like a functioning basketball player, and that gave me joy.
Yeah, I feel like the young guys is probably the next thing. Omax looked great. Lively looked impressive again, and Hardy had a really nice game. So yeah, Omax was cool. What, 11 points? That's a career high, right? That's got to be. I'm not even looking that up. He made 3 threes, which is awesome.
His first one he missed so bad, my wife goes, "What was that?"
I was so scared he missed that 3 and he would not, because he missed a corner 3, I think, against Portland or Utah in one of these recent games, and he missed it really bad, and Kidd just pulled him and didn't put him back on the floor really for the most part. So I was a little worried when he missed that 3 if he was going to get the quick hook, but no, he stayed on the floor, had a nice finish in the paint. 4 rebounds, 2 assists, had a block, like, just nothing that's going to jump off the screen. But when you consider he's, another building block, rookie forward that they want to have around, and I would imagine the long-term plan is, like, this guy, if he works out, could be a starter in a year or 2 or however long it takes. But
he needs to get brought along in the right way. The kind of stuff he was doing tonight. Like, how Luka kept basically big boying Vince Williams?
Yeah.
That's going to happen to Omax against a better team. Like, you play the Lakers tomorrow night, and there's LeBron James on the floor. And you're going to go, oh, he doesn't play LeBron James every night. I'm like, okay, go through the small forwards in the NBA. Tell me who you really feel comfortable about Omax playing against. I don't want that guy to get sunned. I want him to have moments of growth and moments of learning. And Memphis was a great team to play him against. And I look forward to seeing what he can continue to do. But his energy will get used against him with the way the NBA calls fouls. It's just, he is so all over the place and physical. I just think it's going to work against him early on.
Yeah, I agree. And he still has to, there's still stuff for him to learn for sure. I mean, he just doesn't even get on the board. He doesn't play, he just hasn't played a lot. So to see him in a game like this, like, he needs to play. Like, when they're playing these bad teams that they're going to win, he needs the minutes, or he needs to be playing, in Frisco, which I know he has, I think, a couple times. So that was good. For Omax, I know a lot of Mavs fans are super excited for him, so it was good to see him do some stuff. Lively is just like I don't even think of him as like a rookie anymore. Like, the way he's playing now, like, I think he's the second most indispensable player on the roster.
I certainly think so.
I think that's where it is.
It's not a slight to Kyrie either.
No.
It's just what he brings them on a night in, night out basis is pretty fantastic, because this essential same team played the Memphis Grizzlies 10 days ago, and you had a Luka out and Kyrie in. I guess Exum wasn't there either, but they couldn't get anything going. And the way Lively just, their defense still wasn't very good tonight, but it's just, he does a lot of stuff. And it's, on the one hand, you're delighted that they have him. On the other hand, it's like, what if you didn't use 7 years of questionable centers or 5 years of questionable center Doncic career. Like, what if? Yeah, as Wickle says in the chat, we are so screwed if he gets injured. It's like, yeah, we are. But that's how teams are built. You just got I really like watching him play. I like watching him kind of grow and learn. I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. is such an interesting matchup for him because Jaren Jackson Jr. is, he was obviously took 29 shots tonight, scored 41 points, a lot of those on Lively, frankly. But I still like the way Lively played. He grabbed 4 times the number of rebounds as Jaren Jackson Jr. Give me that from my center any day of the week over 41 points. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was nice. 5 offensive rebounds, which is also nice. I mean, basically he's leading the league in field goal percentage, right? I mean,
83 for 111. So he's at just under 75%. So if I don't know if he qualifies, but if he does, he's got to be up there.
Yeah, and I think it's just impressive. His finishing is impressive. We already talked about, in that Thunder game where the Mavericks lost, his ability, like the fact that now he's like catching short rolls and scoring in the 4-on-3s, which is like not something I anticipated him having in his tool belt until like year 2 or 3. And he's doing it before we get to the All-Star break. Like it feels like every game he gets, like, his ability to kind of like absorb and adapt and get better at a rapid pace. It's crazy. He's like I don't know what it is. Like I've never seen a young player like him that wasn't like, in that Luka, LeBron, Durant, that kind of level of prospect. Outside of that, it's hard to find guys that just kind of get the hang of it so quickly, especially for a position that can be pretty tough. I mean, this was like, we were just going to be happy if he just kind of caught some lobs and played like 15 or 18 minutes a night. And now he's a 35-minute per game. Well, not 35 minutes. He had 35 minutes tonight, but now he's a 30-minute per game indispensable player.
I remember being like excited at the concept of him playing 20 minutes a game.
Yeah. Because remember, we thought foul trouble was going to keep him out, and like he's had some moments, but like he's had a handle on that. And yeah, like when he's not on the floor, it's so noticeable. Like he's that much of a difference maker. And it's like, it just goes to show with the draft and with these young players, because yeah, a lot is on Lively for what he's doing, but being able to play next to Luka and Kyrie and being coached by Tyson Chandler and just being in an environment that's, despite last season, is more conducive to winning. Just like, what if he was in Detroit or what if he was in Washington? And it just goes to show just how important, obviously you won't, when you're in that range, you usually it's like take the best player available when you're in the lottery, but fit matters. And kudos to the Mavericks coaching staff for kind of believing in this pick and riding it and giving him the opportunity. I mean, they've given him all he can handle. Like, he didn't start that first game against San Antonio, but other than that, like, I can't remember moments where it's like, he's being held back by the coach. Like, the coaching staff has given him basically everything he wants in terms of like, here, you want to try this? Go do this. Like he's getting every opportunity and he's taking advantage of it.
Love it. I love it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really wanted to hit on here before we get out of Dodge.
Probably need to note Hardy had a really nice game, and you need him to have really nice games when Kyrie's out. So
yeah,
he needed that.
19 points, 4 assists. Yeah. Just a confusing player for me.
I mean, he had done nothing. I mean, he's really done nothing this season. So I feel like him having a game like this with Kyrie out was a nice little confidence boost, I'm sure.
I think that. I think you're right. So the Mavericks play the Lakers tomorrow night, early game. So they fly back tonight. That game's in Dallas. They play at 6:30 start time. So not only they start earlier. It's the third time this year they will play a back-to-back, and on the second night of the back-to-back, they will be playing fewer than 24 hours later than the previous game tipped, which is weird. Luka played 44 minutes. Exum at 35. There's a real chance the Mavericks just get whacked tomorrow by the Lakers. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, that's got schedule loss written all over it, especially with these injuries. Like, are you starting XMM Jones against LeBron and Anthony Davis? Like, that's gonna be tough to match up with the Lakers' size.
The only real
Grant
hope
Williams
has to
isn't
be
back. Yeah,
right. Well, and I think Grant Williams comes back tomorrow.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, the way they were talking about him is like could play, but
if he's gonna play one of these two games, play him.
It's going to be this one, and I do think it's worth mentioning though that there is like it's not that the Mavericks are going to lose. This is NBA basketball, and anything can happen. But I do think if the Mavericks were to win, yes, like Kenneth just says it in the chat. LeBron is still tired from the special Laker tournament. He says that in jest, but that's kind of the take is like, did these guys, and they played real hard. Granted, they had probably the weakest path to get to that tournament title. Just really laugh out loud funny when you see who they had to beat in group play and whatnot. But that's kind of the rub where they've been playing a little bit more basketball than the Mavericks. Anthony and not to be an asshole, but Anthony Davis rarely has two monster games back to back. So, I mean, that's sort of where I'm going to go with it in this game. It's not that I'm expecting them to lose, but I wanted to talk about this game and kind of enjoy this game because they play the Lakers and they play the Wolves, and the Wolves are a team like the Wolves were built to beat Denver. So the Mavericks would really going to have to bring their A game to beat the Wolves. I mean, the Wolves beat the shit out of us twice in Abu Dhabi to the point to where that had all of us quietly second guessing the Mavericks offseason without understanding that the Wolves were like one of the best teams in the league. So
yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, and now I think they get Portland again this week, but it's the big boy part of the schedule now.
Right.
We're gonna find out. I mean, I think we already kind of know what this team is, which is totally fine. They're what are they? 13-8, 14-8?
14-8,
which is great. But
the
schedule is they're gonna have to weather the storm, and we're at the part where it's like, hey, if they go 500 for like 2 or 3 weeks, like that's a win because of how many good teams they're gonna be playing in the next few weeks.
All right. Well, we'll be back tomorrow night early as well. So at least there's that for us with kids and all that good stuff. Head on over to MavsMoneyball.com tomorrow in particular. There's some good stuff up tonight, but we have a good story up or that's going to be coming up about the Lakers coach that I think fans of basketball will appreciate. We just have we didn't write very much the last few days, which is fine. There's not much to write about when the Mavericks aren't playing, but head on over there. There'll be a lot of regular stuff. And again, if you're one of these people that knows things about YouTube, knows things about Apple podcasting, please feel free to reach out to me because I am doing my best and Josh is helping within our kind of means to do so while also having families and real jobs. So we're just trying to get all this stuff up and going. All right. Anything else from you, Josh?
I think I'm good. Let's get out of here.
All right. If you guys want to hang out with me a little bit more, I'm going to be starting our other live show here in about 15 to 20 minutes. If you go back to the main YouTube page for Pod Maverick, you will see that live show. You can click the notify me button to get notified when we go live. I want you to come hang out with me. We'll talk a little more hoop and just kind of enjoy the nice victory. Everybody that's listening on a podcast show, podcast platform, please have a great week, and we will talk with everybody soon. Go Mavs.